Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Divorce Allies podcast. I'm Anna Graham, and today, again, I'm with Melissa Gragg. In today's segment, we think it's really important to talk about this. It's what we're dealing with in our own personal businesses, as well as really helping our clients deal with this. It's getting comfortable on camera, staying authentic, and how to ultimately utilize AI to really take this video content and these transcripts to the next level. Don't worry, we're going to go step by step through all of these different processes, even like what softwares to use when it comes to recording, and even down the line, how to optimize your SEO from these videos. But again, let's start from the very beginning. Melissa, welcome. Please, can you give us an overview of why it's so important to get on camera and start recording yourself?
Yeah, and we've been experiencing this because it's a multi-part process. Like one
Yeah.
is we're going through a divorce and we're going to be like we're not going to be on the big screen, but we're going to be in a courtroom. We're going to be in a deposition. We're going to be in a hearing of some capacity, and we need to be able to present ourselves without saying and I don't know, and like that's probably, it's not the ums and ahs that are going to get you. It's the I don't know, or the hold on, or the filling space with words that don't really mean anything. And so one of the things that, we also know is you have to start kind of maybe building your side hustle or side gig. And right now, video is probably the largest driver of traffic to websites, to your social media. Everything is shorts. Well, shorts are videos, like longer form content is still videos. And so most people are very comfortable with creating blogs and
Mhm.
using AI to create blogs because that's very easy. But how do you reverse it and start with the video content? Or, quite frankly, what we have found is how do you just start to even auditorily start to record yourself?
Mhm.
And what we know is, like, when I do a sales call, right? I'm going to be speaking to a new client, and I'm going to be putting kind of my best foot forward. So I'm going to be like, hey, like, let me answer all the questions that you have, right? And so I
Yeah.
start answering those questions. And if I record it even into voice notes, it can create a transcript for me. You can take that transcript, you can put it into AI and say, hey, AI, here's all these questions that I asked. It could be a half an hour conversation, it could be an hour conversation. Like we all do those 30-minute consults, record them. And you don't have to use the person's information because a lot of times you're doing the talking. And so you
Mhm.
then put it into AI and say, hey, here's a transcript. Can you give me 5 video shorts and make them be 30 seconds long? What's the hook? What's the script based on the
Absolutely.
questions that this person was asking, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
And like,
yeah.
no, go ahead. Continue.
Well, now you take that script and you now have 5 short scripts, right? And so you put them back into like just a word format and you put it underneath your camera and you start recording it. Now you don't have to worry about what is in the script because it was based on your sales call, and it realistically should be based on what you normally say to clients about their regular frequently asked questions. And then what you're going to tell them is a little bit more like, yes, that's what you wanted to ask, like what were the fees or how does evaluation work? But what you should have asked was, how is it going to impact my case? Like, what am I going to do with this when it's going forward? They don't know what questions to ask always. So you're taking little scripts, and now they're a 30-second, a minute, a couple minutes, right? Depending upon what you tell AI to script it as. Now you're going to go in and shoot that content and record it, just you talking. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, you're not going to be like blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah, 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 but you can record what is your natural, like that's probably what it's going to look like when you first start. You have to get a little bit of a mindset of like you're telling a story to a bunch of kindergartners, right? And they're really not going to be interested if you tell it like mama, mama, mama. So it allows you, if the script is there, to focus on, okay, how do I use my hands? How do I speak? Do I need to slow down? Most of the time we need to slow down because we're talking too fast. Blah, 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 blah. So
Mhm.
it gets you a little bit focused, but it's based on something that you have created. So using AI to create something new for you, thinking that you're going to create something that nobody else has used AI for, is not what we're talking about how to use AI. We're talking about how to use AI on the things that you already did, your sales call, your new client call, onboarding a new client. Record that, record just your version of like, how are you talking somebody through the starting process? And a lot of times, these are the questions that you're going to get every single day. Every single new client call, you get the same questions. You should be putting those out on the internet. You should be putting those on your website, because I don't want to answer the same calls every day. I want to get to the heart of what we need to talk about. And I want you to look at those videos on my website. What are the costs? What's the document request? What are the 3 things of a business valuation? What's fair market value? What's EBITDA? I don't want to answer those questions. And if you're answering those questions on every 30-minute consult that you have, recording it, putting it into video, and then pushing it out onto your website, even at this point, or just conceptually understanding, like, how would AI condense that? Like, that could be a
Yeah.
blog, but it could also
Yes.
be a video.
Yeah, and then even on the flip side, like at the core of this too is helping when you're in the divorce and maybe you don't have a business yet, but even just like getting confident on video and then like what you're saying, recording yourself just on your phone app. Most of us have iPhones. If you open your phone, you will find the voice memo little app at somewhere. It's black with a red and a white like lines. Get that out. And if you're needing to practice what you're going to say in your mediation or trial, just ramble on your questions, what you're confused about. Get it all out in that audio transcript. Again, you can pull that transcript, you can ask AI, could you analyze this as my lawyer and see at what positions that, maybe I need to get more clear about? Could you come up with a list of questions that I had in this audio recording? I mean, those are the things that were like, that's just the start. And then when you're comfortable with that audio, that's when you can kind of progress into the actual video. Because I think even for me, just getting started with my whole digital journey, recording myself just like walking around like this, it gets it more natural to just have those conversations anyways, because I think the most uncomfortable part of all of this is that you're talking by yourself. And these conversations, you're used to having them with someone else, right? So at least just starting with audio messaging yourself, even just audio message a friend, and then it just gets you in the habit of expressing those type of feelings, emotions, topics in a more like consistent way. But when we talk about video, let's kind of like, someone has decided today they need to start recording themselves. Where should they even start? Should they start on their iPhone? Should they start on their iPad, their laptop? If they're going to do something on their laptop, what softwares? Zoom, Google Meet, we use StreamYard. So let's just kind of go through those, Melissa. And what have you been using for your personal video journey?
Yeah, and I think it even starts, like, we are focused on how to create videos for like marketing your business, right? Because
Mhm.
ultimately, if you're in this divorce process and the money, the finances don't work out like you do, because the court system is a little toxic and you can't guarantee what's going to happen, that we know you need to start sort of a business. But if we stay with the divorce, right? So right now you're going through a divorce and you're like, okay, I don't care about video. I don't care about making anything. I'm telling you that this is going to get you more concise on your story and your presentation in court. And so you start with your story, right? So we always encourage you to create kind of this history, this timeline or history of the divorce. I want you to read it. I want you to talk it into Google, into notes. So either the voice memos or like my word has a
Yeah, 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 yeah.
dictation that
Yeah,
you would just press the dictation and you can literally watch it appear as the transcript, right? So a
yeah.
lot of us, unless you're in my generation or above, like, not everybody wants to write this anymore. And it's going to take a lot more time. And when you start to write, you start to go into that like grammar police kind of situation where you're like, well, I want to say it different. Oh, no, this is just kind of dumping out the information into the voice notes and in some capacity that gives you a transcript. And then you take that transcript and you're going to put it into AI and say, give me a better, more concise history based on bullet points, based on a timeline, based on a bunch of prompts that we can provide you. But what that's doing is getting you to practice speaking about this. And it mostly is very awkward at the beginning because you're like, I don't know. There's so many topics that I want to talk about. Create a voice memo for each topic. What do you know about the marital waste? What do you know about the abuse? What do you know about the narcissistic patterns? Put all of that and then make it concise. You can even say to, like, my AI is kind of trained. It'll ask me like, oh, do you want to make this back into an email, a memo, or something that's more legalese? And I was like, yeah. So what you're doing though is you're starting to get comfortable with the fact that you are going to be very awkward talking about these things, but you need to communicate that back to your attorney or the mediator or somebody in the room, right? You're kind of creating a compelling, convincing position that you will champion all the way to trial. How do you start there? You start with that basic backstory. You start with what you know about the finances. You start about the missing documents. You start about what your intuition is telling you, and you just start there in order to talk about it, right? Because I need to typically talk about something several times before I get it pretty concise, right? We do pre-calls for all of these. Like, what are we going to talk about? Then we talk about it. And then we use the transcript to say, okay, how could I then communicate what I talked about in a very efficient manner to whoever is involved on my team? Some of these documents you're creating kind of not one time, but you're creating so that you're guiding. Again, if you're in charge of your divorce, you need to guide everybody about what is in your head. And if you're just writing it, you're not going to be as complete. You're not going to be as focused, right? And so if you just topically kind of get these voice memos together, then you take the transcript and you put it back into AI, it starts to get to like, oh, I forgot those pieces. You know, like, okay, well, how do I then merge? Here's some additional pieces that I forgot about. Can you merge that into this bigger global, like, kind of outline, if you will? So you're kind of creating an outline for your divorce for everybody else so that when they come in and they ask you the same questions, right? When did you get married? What's your date of marriage? How many kids do you have? Do you have a house? Is there a mortgage? Like, you don't have to, you'd be like, here's my spreadsheet. Here's like all of the factors. And they're like, oh, great. That could go to an attorney. That could go to an expert. That could go to a mediator. It could eventually go to a judge. And you're comfortable with it because it's facts. It's not emotions and it's not opinion. And you can even tell AI to take the emotion out, right? We use words that are emotional, like that was a tragedy. That was a bad situation, which is emotion, right? And so you're kind of removing some of that so that you're getting back to the facts. You're presenting it in a way that you can then also authentically show up. When you show up, you're also speaking these same, like these are almost, this outline becomes your mantra in some capacity, that you're still saying the same thing. You'll be very consistent and nobody can kind of catch you in a misstep, if you will.
Well, and I don't want to get completely off track, but I think this is a really important topic because, like, I just want to ask you from your perspective, have you seen clients? I mean, you have, I know the answer, but can you just explain a little bit, like, the difference between the clients that are actually doing this and how much you see their confidence increase and how much, like, their clarity and almost like just nervous system calms down when you get them recording their transcripts, when you get them recording their timelines? Like, what are you seeing in your actual clients, the differences between the ones that are doing this and the ones that are not doing this?
Yeah, clients who kind of go through this process are going to be much more prepared for presenting it in general. But most of the time in a divorce, especially if you're at the beginning or before you've hired anybody, you are super dysregulated and you don't know it, but you will know it when you look back, right? And so you're so dysregulated because of potentially the relationship, the abuse, the alienation, all of these things. The reality is you have so many things going on in your head that you're like, I need to get all of them out. Like, and so most of the time when I talk to a client initially, they're like, oh my God, there's so many things that I need to talk about. Like their brain is like just going at 100 miles an hour. So it allows you to kind of brain dump that, and you don't have, because what we do is we're like, okay, I got to remember this. 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 Okay, I'm going to go talk to them. I want you to kind of dump it out, put it in a concise form, and then start working on filling out that outline, filling out the outline to become a summary. The summary becomes evidence. And how do you then create the evidence? And everything, like if you're going to tell a story, then you need to present the evidence in the way you're going to tell the story. If you tell the story and you're like, hey, let me go to page 1400 and I'm going to tell you this, and then go back to 700 and then we're going to go to 300, like you seem very disjointed, right?
Yes.
Now you don't want your professionals to forget anything, right? You don't even want to forget anything because you're like, oh, I forgot. He moved money here. And then there was this time, and then he did this, right? So instead, you can start to, and I think it's like an everyday process, is like, what is today's things that you thought of, right? And so a lot of it is you can start to regulate when you have it on paper, when you've communicated it. And let's say you transfer attorneys. Let's say you get different experts. Let's say you go into mediation, which is a new viewer of your story. If you have a 3-page summary or a 5-page summary that they can easily read, that's going to be great. If you toss them over a whole pile of 800 different documents, that's all like, that's not going to be a very effective way. And again, you are typically paying everybody by the hour. I don't care who they are, except for sometimes the judge, but a lot of people are doing private judging and mediation. And so you're paying all the professionals in the room. Why wouldn't you want the basics to be covered very quickly? How long does it take you to read a 5-page summary that could be literally 20 years of data? It could take you 20 minutes. It could take you 5 minutes, depending upon how fast you read, right? So that, to me, allows you to start to just slow down and say, okay, I got all of that information out. I now can focus on finding the details, finding the, like, okay, I say that he, moved money. I may or may not have a client that texts me this morning that their spouse got served last week and they're moving money today. Okay. Big money, $1 million, right? So if that starts to happen, you already have prepped everybody for understanding what the situation is. You want to find the proof, right? So now you have this marital waste claim, or you have this, movement of money. You're going to want to just pull those documents so that it goes in the path of your story, right? So you have your information of like, well, and we do businesses. So it's like, well, when was the business started? Was it started before the marriage or not? What are you trying to prove? What is going to impact your case? And can you focus on evidencing up those issues and not just having your mind every day walk through? Like, we all have anxiety about these situations. So it'd be like your checklist. Like, if you don't write your checklist down, like, oh, I need a checklist to go to the grocery store, or I'm going to be all confused when I go in there. Okay, then you already understand that this template would help you so that when you go into a very emotional meeting with a mediator, an emotional meeting with an attorney, an emotional meeting with your spouse there, you default to the script, right? You default to what the generated 5 pages is. And anytime that you're like, what did they ask me? I'm so just what? Or they trigger you and you like
Yeah.
can't think anymore. You don't have to worry because it's already been captured in that space. You can rely on providing information about the details as opposed to regurgitating the whole story for a half an hour at every single meeting where you're paying them to listen to your story and no one's going to remember the next time. Like that's what we hear clients say more often is like,
Yeah.
why doesn't the attorney's been with me for a year? Why don't they know anything about me? Because they have a lot of clients and you're only important when you come to those meetings. So if they can revert to like, oh, where's that 5 page summary? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Now I remember. Let them get themselves up to speed before they meet with you, as opposed to you always having to get back on that hamster wheel to explain this traumatic situation over and
Right.
over and over again.
And these are things we know how easy it is because we quite literally do it every single day in our personal and work lives. I think people just don't understand truly how easy it is to just record. And we keep saying pulling a transcript. Maybe we need to just kind of like even go back and explain just like a few seconds what we even mean by that and how you can even do that. But like this is just showcasing because this is a huge situation in someone's life. A divorce, it's chaotic, it's stressful, there's a lot of things, but just like getting your words out, repurposing them using AI, it can really probably change the outcome of a lot of these situations. And so we're saying not only using that in divorce, but even if you have this business that you're starting, like all of these things are now essential to do. And getting on camera and like putting yourself out there, I know it's so uncomfortable. We've all gone through that. But at this point, like you kind of have to do it. And it's not only just going to help you, but it's going to change the outcome of so many things. And so I just want to touch on kind of what I was mentioning, pulling a transcript. So I know we've said that a few times. So what we are saying, a transcript is when you can convert words, spoken words into written words. So there are tons of free transcription services. You can just Google free transcription service and you're going to upload your MP3 file, which is an audio file, to that transcription service. And as long as it's under an hour, a lot of them are free. There are tons and tons that you can pay for. It's very cheap, like 25 cents a minute or something like that. So these are all things that you can just search online. There's no one great one. There's tons of resources everywhere. But that's what we're saying when we say pull a transcript. That's what we're saying when you convert your spoken words into written words. So I just wanted to lay that out there. But Melissa, I want to talk about StreamYard because
Even notes, like I'll go into the notes
yeah,
and just
yeah,
dictate
you're so
anywhere
right.
that you can dictate, then you have an automatic script. So if it's into Word, if it's into your notes, just dictate it. And I want you to understand, what do you understand when you read a legal contract? Okay. Now, if you read that legal contract and you can't understand, you got to read it 800 times because it's got legalese or it's got professional words. When you speak, you are trying to communicate so that somebody understands, right? Written is to solidify so that you have a basis of that it is correct and it is complete. When you're talking, you're trying to make somebody understand. So you're speaking in more simple terms and you're trying to get that communicate that big issue. And so that is a big piece of why, and it takes less time. If I have to tell you to go sit down and write out your history, you're not going to do it. Whereas if you're sitting in line somewhere or you're waiting, I mean, like pickup line with the kids, sit there and just dictate it into your notes or something that it already gives the transcripts. Like even when people leave messages, it's an automatic transcript. So a lot of these things, just get that transcript and then you're going to literally cut and paste that into AI. And AI is you're going to tell AI what you want it to do with it. Hey, I have a script that talks about the history of my divorce. Could you please put it in a format that I can provide to my attorney that will limit the emotions, but make sure that everybody understands the points? Here is the script. Thank you. Boom. And it's going to give you, then you cut and paste that out into another Word document that you would then work on And that's your basis. So it's not that garbly-gook script because you're just like droning on about stuff. It's
Yeah.
really a more concise format that then you take, just like any outline. It's like writing a book, really. It's like, what's the outline? Then can you fluff up some of the pieces, right? So then you might go in and write or talk about, okay, here's one of the issues we talked about. Here's one of the issues about the kids that I want to enunciate more. And so you'll speak about that and then put it back into AI so that it just makes it. I mean, I did this yesterday. It was a very complex financial situation. I thought I had explained it very well. I put it into AI and I kid you not, I was like, dang, that is like, I was like, I was able to see how unclear I was. Like, I was very
Yeah.
clear to me because I'm a
For
financial
sure.
person. But when it re-scripted it for me, I was like, that's how everybody else could understand it, right? We get so far into our own stories that we
Mm-hmm.
can't see the forest for the trees. So it
Yep.
allows us to then step back and be like, oh, okay, what are my main issues? Like you might ask AI, like, show my main issues. And then I want you to prioritize your issues, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot of what's in the divorce allies and such like that. But you're talking about some of the apps and some of the tools that we can use when you're ready to actually record and
Yeah.
actually, like, StreamYard is what we're in right now. But when you're actually recording, like, how do you get your backdrop better? Like, look at Anna's backdrop. Delightful. I'm at a random location. So my backdrop is like a kid's bedroom, right? So how do you get your audio, your visual? And then if you already have the script, you're basically just going in and being like, okay, what would I do different? Okay, is my hair okay? Like, how am I presenting? Are my hands going to be in the video? Because if I'm talking down here, it's just like looks like I'm moving. You're then going to focus on how you change the presentation of it as opposed to the words. You already have the words down. And this, I think, even if you are not creating business content yet, I think you should go in and see how you present. A lot of mediations are done online. So how do you present when you're in this little box and this is
Mm.
all you have? Like, what are they going to take away from what they see in the background? Right? Like, if I look at
Right.
your background, what do I imply from it? And what do you imply if you have this other stuff all in the background? And what does it mean to your presentation?
And I love that point because that is such a niche situation specific to our audience is that now they're doing court on Zoom. I know it's been for the last 5 years or whatever, but it's not just a business meeting anymore. It's straight up court. So I think it's a great to practice even having these type of conversations where, well, I'll get into that later because that's like my biggest tip. But practice having conversation on camera. Like, what are you looking at? Are you looking at the webcam? Are you looking at the other person? Are you looking at yourself? Are you looking at something in the distance? I mean, there's so many different things to think about. But when you're even just recording, I have two kind of brains and advice. I have like my authentic, whatever healing community brain, and I have my marketing brain. Of the marketing brain says, make sure you have a polished background, make sure you have a ring light, make sure you have a good microphone, make sure all of these things are in place. And then my other brain is saying, as long as the content is good and you're showing up authentic, who cares? I mean, like even you today, yeah, your background isn't perfect, but guess what? You're still showing up as Melissa Gragg with content that everyone needs to hear.
Correct.
So I really go back and forth, right? I think that if so many times I hear like specifically my clients say like, oh, I was going to record today, but I was kind of having a bad hair day, so I just didn't. Okay, well, first off, I mean, I get it. I totally get it. But even if it's a bad hair day, just sit down and still record because it truly, if you really, really hate it, you can still pull the audio and the transcript. Never back out of a content day just because of appearances, because you can repurpose it a trillion different ways at this point. But it's just like, I know, Melissa, you've gone through all of this from your 12-year journey of recording. We used to have like studio days, right? Like
Oh, I know.
you would have
Green
like
screens, real cameras, like HD cameras, like big lights, like the whole, like, I had to have a whole studio.
Yeah.
But I think, the interesting part though is like for business videos, things random in the background are going to be okay. Like, actually, marketers will say, like, have some crazy stuff happen, and that's perfect. But if we're talking about prepping for divorce, and quite frankly, what we think is, as you do this for your divorce, when you do it for your business, you're going to be so much more polished. But she's exactly like Anna's exactly right. We're doing mediation online. We could be doing depositions online. Like, if somebody gets sick, they're like, oh, can we do this online? Now, again, not every place is going to do this. Mediations, absolutely. There's so much abuse and issues with people that, like, mediations online is just easier for everyone. You don't even have to have a conference room. You don't have to serve people food. You don't have to do any of that. So it is almost like, if you're prepping for mediation, how are you going to present yourself, and because what we talk about is also your tells. So if you're sitting here and you're in the mediation and somebody's saying something, you're like, then they'll be like, who are you talking to? You're like, what? No, there's no one in the room, you know, or it's like, or if you're like, if you're talking over here and you're like, well, I want to look at everybody, so I'm looking at my second monitor. No, we're advising you put it right up under your camera so that you're always looking at the camera, and then you're looking at all the people. Can you see me looking at all the people? Not really, right? It still looks like I'm looking at the camera. So those types of things. And if you have your paper, your script, like, you have your 5-page summary, you can just be like, okay, you can be paying attention to them, you can be active listening, right? You don't have to be focused. Most of the time we get too focused on what we're going to say that we're not listening to what they're saying. And in mediation, you need to be listening to what they are saying, not focused on what you're going to say. You should be reading from your script, right? And your script is kind of your outline. But either way, it's going to allow you to, like, another thing is, in depositions, you need to pause after the question is asked. And so this allows you to start active listening. It starts to, like, okay, somebody asks you a question. Like, if we're sitting in the mediation, the mediator says, well, Melissa, what about, back in 2019, when you say that he moved money, could you explain that a little bit more? I want to be able to be very concise, but also to, like, kind of pause and be like, okay, so in 2019, da, 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 right? You're going to seem much more regulated. And so when that maybe narcissist is saying, oh my gosh, she overreacts, or oh my gosh, she does this, how you present yourself. And again, if you're like, oh, I know my documents are somewhere. Let me, hold on 1 second. Okay. And something like flies out, right? You're presenting a dysregulated. Whereas if you're sitting there and you have everything kind of right where it needs to be, and you're just like, oh yeah, let me talk to, okay, in 2019, blah, blah, blah. Is that enough information? Would you like some additional information? Because sometimes you're not with you're just with the mediator. It's a very casual conversation. You will tell too much. You will do too much if you don't kind of keep it concise. Again, do you want to sit there and drone on for 30 minutes when you have the mediator there? No. You want to be very poised. You want to be answering the question. You want to be listening to what they ask and then answering it, so that when you go into deposition, which could be and typically is in person, you already have that kind of demeanor. You're already kind of sitting calm. You're not shaking your hands. You're putting them, I would put them under the table, but whatever. Like, you're really kind of already focused on how you're presenting yourself, how you're not making facial gestures of like, what? Are you kidding me? Everybody understands that everybody's got two stories. Allow the person to say their story, take the time to say your story, but the more concise you are, you could create contrasts, like we like to talk about, that they seem then dysregulated. They seem unprepared. They seem like they're just talking. It will almost be like night and day to the mediator or the lawyer, and they're all clocking what you're doing. they're all paying attention to the tells that you have. Like even, I mean, it goes way deeper than that, but that's what you're kind of getting prepared for, is how to present yourself in a more regulated fashion. But the process of doing the scripting will take the pressure off of remembering everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And the scripting, and even like the step further is then also like what we were mentioning in a previous segment, is program AI to be, AI can be the best lawyer, it can be the best mediator. You can also program it to be maybe your spouse that you're divorcing it, and say, like, given this script, what are some potential ways that my spouse might come at me during the mediation? And then work through those potential outcomes, so then you feel more comfortable again with, maybe your spouse will come out and say that, but you've already practiced it with AI, with your scripts, with all of this preparation, that you're not so thrown off anymore. And then, like, being calm, like, we suggest too with our clients, if you get a little bit fidgety, like you can't see your hands, use a little stress ball under the table. Like, you can use all these little smaller tactics to help you kind of calm your nervous system, because again, that's what we really focus on the Divorce Allies, is not just the actual strategy of divorce, but the more like holistic approach to everything. Is it all starts with your center and grounded and really calming that nervous system. But yeah, I mean,
But that's a good point about, like, what they're going to say that could be lies. That what they're going to say that's going to position you to look bad. You should ask AI, what is my response to that? And you
mm,
should have a list of responses that are calm, that are normal, and like, I don't agree with what that person is saying. And I believe that there's a different way of looking at this. And I would like to tell you how I perceived that same incident. Right.
yeah,
And so if you have some of that language, and again, we're not saying that you're going to read the script. We're saying that your preparation is going to be to know those kind of answers so immediately that you're
yeah,
not going to go into, well, that's a fucking lie. That's ridiculous. You know that you're lying, and you will get in the habit of trying to address the person, right?
yeah,
You don't want to address the person. You want to always be kind of speaking to a mediator when you're presenting this, when you're practicing in this video. You want to be like, how would I present it to this third party that doesn't
hmm,
know anything about anything? What is important to provide to them? What is important to refute? A lot of times, what we would want to do is proactively refute what they're going to say. Like, say, like, I know my spouse is going to say that I am also part of the toxic relationship, but let me explain one of the things. I'm trying to protect my children, or I'm trying to do this. So if you already counterbalance what you know they're going to say, you then, when they say it, the mediator already has a perspective of your viewpoint. And so a
yeah,
lot of this, again, we think is going to help you create videos in the future. But this process of getting comfortable in front of the camera is really, whether it's for this situation, whether it's for going outside, you need to have an efficient way to record. You have to, like, I'm just using a real simple $100, whatever
Logitech
HD
probably.
cam, Logic. Yeah. It's like, you
Hmm,
can go, it's probably like $59 or $39 at this
yeah,
point. StreamYard is what we record on. And you should have a mic. Anna's got a mic. I wish I could bring a mic, but I'm not at my current
circumstantial.
location. So, like those, like a portable ring light, like all
Yep.
of those things. But when we record into StreamYard, they actually, in the background, which we could talk about, because I know we're going to kind of
Yeah.
get
And I
this
want to
tied
pause
up.
really, really quick, because this is my biggest tip, is that call in your best friend, your sister, your cousin, whoever, get them on camera with you, because to start off to record by yourself is really uncomfortable. It's not natural. And you're just going to sit there and question yourself. So even if you're practicing for that mediation, if you even, whatever you're recording, you can even have AI script out and say, hey, Melissa, can you play my super toxic ex right now? I'm going to give you the script and we're going to just practice going back and forth. I'm going to practice looking at the camera this round. I'm going to practice looking at you. Like, go through all of that with someone you trust. get on StreamYard, get on Zoom, whatever it is. And that makes it so much just like a natural. You can understand, they can even give you some feedback if you're wanting that feedback. But it's so much better to include someone than to just sit there in your home by yourself because
Oh my God. I love this. I wish we don't talk about this before we shoot. So this is great. I love this idea because I want them to trigger you. Like I want you to see how you're triggered and how your response, because we are very facially motivated. Like we show everything on our face until you start doing this type of stuff forever. And then the emotions are used to tell the story, right? You're going to use your facial emotions to tell the story and not just as a response mechanism. And so you want to be triggered. You want to, like what a lot of times what Anna would ask me is not necessarily what I would think to ask, right?
Mm,
And so if you have a friend or somebody, they could ask you and they know your story. So you want them to kind of trigger you and ask you. And then what you're going to do is sit back and rewatch that and say, okay, what would I do different? How
mm.
do I show up when I'm looking off camera a little bit, right? Does that seem very distant, or like who are you talking to, kind of thing, right? So how do you then refocus? And a lot of times you have to put the camera right above wherever your face is, because more often than
Mhm.
not we're going to talk to ourselves, or you put the other person's face right under the camera so you feel like you're having a conversation with that person. You also can
Mhm.
put the script or your outline and your notes right
Yeah.
above that. So it always looks like you're looking at the camera. You're not like looking at your notes, because that's a tell, right? You're like, "Oh, what do you need to look at?" Whereas if I have my notes up there, I can just be like, "Well, one of the points is blah blah blah." So we're using it to get the uncomfortableness out of the way. So all the videos that you're going at the beginning, you're not going to like, they're going to be awkward, get them out of the way. That is a learning tool for the divorce. But it also then, when you flip around and you're like, hey, I think I can make videos for my service or my product or whatever,
Yeah.
you're going to be like right on it, right? You're going to go in, you can turn it on, and you eventually, like most of my videos, and we've been doing this for about 12, 13 years. Most of my first videos, probably for the first 5 years, and you can go back and look at them because they're still all there. And I don't look alike the same either, but all of those videos are scripted. And the reason why we did the scripting is because you want to put it into the description of the YouTube video eventually. And you want that script to be exactly what you said in the video. For your purposes, you're really just trying to look at, for the divorce, you're looking at how you present yourself and what you would change about, I don't smile as much, or I'm too serious, or I furrow my brows and it looks like I'm mad. Like you're going to have to maybe work on over time, and it could take a month or two. That working on it is going to give you the confidence to be able to really position your story, your side, in a very concise, very formal, easy to understand. And they're going to be like, this person is saying that they're crazy, and they show up very professional. That's the goal.
So, okay, should we get into the back end of StreamYard or should we even have that as a separate episode at this point? Because I think
Well,
we've
yeah,
given, okay,
we'll do it real quick,
yeah.
because we just want to show you, like in StreamYard, this is actually like one of our videos that we shot. And this was like last week. So you guys have maybe already seen it. But what happens in the back of StreamYard is this is the video. You can either download it, you can edit and repurpose, which we'll show you later. But there's a place that you can say, run some AI reels. And so this will run some shorts and reels. The difference between a short and a reel is a short is 1 minute or less, and a reel is 1 minute or more. And so you can now go in and say, okay, and it even comes like, we don't do anything. You press a button and it creates all of these things. Now I go in and say, okay, as you're getting, let's look at, do we like this, right? Do we like how it says, do we like, this is 1 minute and 11 seconds. So what is it? It's a reel. It's not a short. So in a lot of times I'm going to have to download that. Whereas if it's under a minute, you can literally just post it directly to, you can attach your various, you know,
Your accounts, your social
your
media accounts.
accounts, and you can post it directly to the account and go from there. Now, again, this is not the most perfect way to do shorts and reels, but it is the fastest. And each of these could take you an hour to create in real time. And that's what you want to kind of avoid when we get into the marketing side of it
Yep.
is, how do you then take something like this and put it out into the world, or else it's just going to sit in here. So we'll probably come back and talk more about how we
Yeah.
do video for marketing, because this was really
Yeah.
kind of, like, we know you're going to need video, and we're trying to tell you some of the reasons in the future that
Mhm.
you would use it. Even if you work for a company and you are in a sales position and you have a LinkedIn, could do videos for LinkedIn. And, like, even in some capacity, I don't know if I should do this and it will mess it up. Like, you can shoot this way, right? And so this is going to be better for like a lot of the socials, a lot of, you really have to be mindful. But again, we're going to walk you through a 30-day AI tutorial of how to
Yeah.
create these types of things. But for right now, we know you have to get used to being on camera, because you're either going to be in a mediation, you're going to be in a deposition or trial. So why don't you multitask and figure out how you're going to do it for the future business, but get yourself more comfortable about your presentation skills and using AI to create scripts or things that you can start to record. Or once you record you talking about these very personal things, you may see that you don't like how you do it. You're going to hate it. Fix it, change it, and don't have it be showing up when you go to court or mediation.
Yes to all of this. And what a way to heal from this process in general. You're going to look back and reflect over the last 6, 12, 24 months and see your progression. And what better way to record that whole thing? So then when you're on the out of it, you can even showcase that. That could be your even new business is the journey of getting out of this high conflict situation. You've made it. And now you have all this video to repurpose. So this is
Exactly.
why
You have your like own documentary
yes.
of like, and then you will be able to see within 1 month of what you looked like at the beginning and how you presented it in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. That should be enough to tell you that you're going to be way more prepared to show up as a regulated adult going through a traumatic situation. And
Yeah.
and we think then you can take those skills, and when you do the business, you don't have to go and do this again, right? Because people who have businesses and want to start creating videos, they have to go through this uncomfortable process as well, right? They don't
Yep.
like their videos, they don't like their face, they don't like their background. Okay, this gives you an opportunity to fix it in an environment that doesn't care about that. You're doing
Yeah.
this for you, you're doing this for your case. And this is a very, very productive thing that we know will be beneficial to you when you get to that mediation.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. I think that we've given a lot of insights today. And if you have any questions regarding any of this, reach out to us. If you want to join the Divorce Allies, this is a conversations we're having every week. And also on top of that is every other instance that you need in divorce, finances, kids, house, everything. We got it covered and we're helping you get to that next step in life. So thank you so much for listening and we'll see you next week.